Ladies and gentlemen, hello once again this week, and welcome to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am, of course, Mr. Warren Hayes, the purveyor of thoughts and myriads of imaginatory concepts as well. Welcome, because this here tonight is the SmackDown Live recap show. Right here on that I do here. It's the what is it today? March 19, 2019. That I do right here live on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. I do it live, folks. I mean, there's a fair chance that if you're listening to this right now, you're listening to it live from my from youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, because there's quite a few people hanging out in the live chat tonight, and that's one of the best parts, if you ask me. Coming to listen to me rant for an hour and a quarter usually. This is one of the best parts here, because the chat here is fantastic. We've got we've got a bunch of stalwarts, great people who come around here. JPQ, of course, here. Blaine Mendoza is here as well. Shane is with us, of course. Kristen Ashley, editor-in-chief of diva-dirt.com. We got Robert Larry. We have Joe Anthony is here. Jamie Tannock, directly from Glasgow. Man, it is so late where you are right now. Thank you for being here. Mr. Fretz, Michael Stepney. Ooh, there's a whole lot of people right now, and if you are watching right now, and if you can make this out, it would appear right now that my connection, my stream connection, which was nice and solid just until I pressed stream or start streaming. Apparently it's a little choppy right now, but I'm confident that it will be that technology will rectify itself as we go along. I am convinced that everything will just smooth itself out, because that's how life goes. Sometimes you just have to believe. You you just have to believe that everything is going to work out and be fine, right? But so if you're watching this now, that's fantastic. And of course, if you're not, that means you're watching it on demand, and that's just as equally excellent. And I appreciate you taking the time to do it. Or perhaps you're even listening to my humble show on your favorite podcast application, because the audio is then released into the worlds of podcast things, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean. It's just about everywhere, if we're being completely open with each other, which I like to think we are. I like to think we have a very honest and real relationship, where we can tell each other things like that, things that are near and dear to our hearts. That's kind of what I like. And I'm really, really happy that you guys are here, regardless of where you're watching, where you're listening right now. And you know what? If you want, and if you feel up to it, a thumbs up on the video, if you're watching on YouTube, is fantastic. Sending the link out if you're watching this live brings more people in as well. Plus, if you're listening to this on a podcast application, well, a review, a like, whatever the format is used to show appreciation for what you're listening to, whatever that format is, if you want to give the Warren Hayes Show a little boost, a little support, those are some fantastic ways of doing it. And if you do want to listen, if you do want to listen to more Warren Hayes this week, well, tomorrow, being Wednesday, you head on over to FightfulSelect.com, which is the premium service of Fightful.com, Ringside News' #1 source of wrestling news. Get on over to Fightful Select. It is the premium service of Fightful.com, and I do my weekly 205 Live NXT UK recap show. Goes live for FightfulSelect.com members immediately after NXT UK. So kind of like tonight, where we have a lovely chat with lovely people talking about lovely things, sharing lovely thoughts with each other. It's the same thing, except I do it for FightfulSelect.com members. I don't know why that was so hard to talk about. But if we that's it. So you head on over there, you subscribe, and then you get a whole bunch of other fantastic amounts of content. Not just me. You get Sean Ross Sapp doing a bevy of things, such as the Fightful Report. He does Q&A sessions. He does dark match commentary. He does retro pay-per-view reviews with me. So we have, so there's that, and there's Steven Jensen from Fight Talk. He does the Weekender, where he covers all non-WWE programming there as well. I mean, there's so much stuff. And then we get, Sean posts a lot of backstage news on Select way before he puts it up on Fightful. So it's good stuff, good times, good people. It's all good things. So that's happening on Wednesday, and then I think later on this week I will be joining. I don't know if you've taken the time to check this out, folks. If you're a New Japan pro wrestling aficionado or fan, or at the very least a well-wisher, it's the New Japan Cup that's going on right now, and we have some bracketology going. When I say we, I mean JPQ, moderator extraordinaire, also known as Big Paws on a Pup, host of the No Particular Angle podcast, which you should also check out. We've been enjoying Anthony from Smart to Death, and we've been doing bracketology specials. We've been breaking down the New Japan Cup as rounds progress, and we're heading into the quarterfinals, semifinals. We're probably going to have another show this weekend going on about it, and I'm really excited for it. It's a lot of fun. I gotta say, I completely showed up JPQ this weekend with my bold prediction that Zack Sabre Jr. was going to defeat Kota Ibushi. You should go check it out. There's a lot of tension, a lot of male tension going on there, if you know what I mean. It's a lot of fun, though. I'm really looking forward to that. So that's going to be really cool. And my, that lady, Kristen Ashley, just so you know, when I was talking about Fightful and stuff, Kristen has her own podcast over on Fightful.com. She's she's not stuck behind the $5 paywall. She gets to be tossed out there for everyone to see, just like, hey, let's bring people over to the site, right? Hide Warren, display Kristen. That's how it works. Kristen is going to have another edition of The Division, her podcast about women's wrestling news, opinions, thoughts, punditry. She's going to have 2 more guests this weekend, so it's taping Saturday, and then Sean just posts it whenever he's ready. So don't you worry, folks. A whole bunch of content coming your way. It's a lot of fun. A lot of people in the chat popping up. Is Jeter here? Chris Jeter? Oh boy, it's a special night. Someone got threatened of losing his job tonight, I think. Showed up. And don't worry. The Warren board, it's not a whiteboard, it's a Warren board. Mother always said branding is important. The Warren board is blank tonight, chat. But there is a reason. We're going to get into it a little later on. But now what we're going to do is we are going to start talking about tonight's edition of SmackDown Live, which has started this evening, with The Miz coming out, the first time that he has officially addressed the WWE Universe since being viciously blindsided by one Shane McMahon. Basically, they started by recapping Shane's promo from last week, and Miz basically has a sort of a mea culpa of his at least regarding the trajectory of at least the past 5 years of his career, saying that he's always been laser focused on the road to WrestleMania, and that he's done underhanded tactics to get where he wanted to go. He's sacrificed every relationship aside from his wife and his daughter to get what he wants. And to him, this friendship with Shane, this is what it meant to him. It's like starting something sincere and new and true. And this was all about him getting his dad to be proud of him. Shane helped him out with that. Shane wanted to be tag team champion since he was a boy. Well, Miz helped him do it. And people warned him, Miz said backstage, be careful about Shane. And I like this because Miz is not spatting completely on his old heel ways. And I like this. He basically saying here, basically saying that, people were warning me about Shane McMahon backstage. Me, The Miz. They were warning me about this guy being underhanded and sneaky. I thought that was a nice touch. And he calls Shane out. He calls him a conniving, disgusting human being. You are rotten to the core, just like your father. Which is received with a very loud reaction from the crowd. You weren't born best in the world. You're a McMahon. You're born the worst. And you think you're special? You may own this company, but you don't own me, just like you don't own Kofi. Now, if there was any doubt in your mind, ladies and gentlemen, as to whether or not The Miz is a heel or a babyface, confirmed babyface right here, putting Kofi over, which generates the very first Kofi chance of the evening. And he finishes up by saying that, he was born in Cleveland. He wasn't born of privilege. He was destined to flip burgers at his dad's greasy spoon. That he was average. He wouldn't amount to anything. But he followed his dreams and proved everyone wrong. He said the fans didn't give him respect at first, and he had to earn it. Man, not just the fans. Not just the fans. A lot of people didn't buy into him as far as fans goes, but backstage neither. And it ends up with telling Shane that he's going to deliver a deserved ass whooping at WrestleMania. I gotta tell you, this was, well, I mean, I'm not surprised. This was a fantastic promo, like Miz is entirely capable of delivering, right? And the cool thing here, the very, very cool thing here, is how he harkened back to his past to say that, well, this is where I am today because I worked really hard. And he did. For the longest time, and we've heard the stories, and they've been confirmed multiple times by multiple people as well. People backstage, Miz was he was an outcast. He was a pariah. You know the stories where he wasn't even allowed to use the locker room. He had to change anywhere but in the men's locker room, and he had to constantly prove himself. This guy's been a workhorse, and I mean, if we harp a lot on the Miz quite a bit. I mean, this isn't news. When I say we, I mean especially myself. Not always, but I've liked the Miz in the past 5 years. He's a workhorse. He's solid. He's carried entire segments of programming entirely on his back. His Intercontinental runs, his most recent one that he had on Raw last year, is memorable. He's able to make a title. He's able to elevate whoever he works with, while all the while elevating himself as well. He's not just a jabroni. Like, he can he brings himself up and is able to carry other people as well. And that is a quality that he has developed with the years. Crazy when you think that this is a guy who entered Tough Enough because he was he had been on what was it? He was on The Real World, right? That was I don't know what you guys in chat think of The Miz. Joe Anthony says, I'll never forget Miz getting kicked out of the locker room over chicken crumbs. Yeah, that's pretty much it. CM Phil, hi, by the way, says Miz gave a great promo, but I'm very hesitant to accept him as a face. You know what? Just before we got on here, when I say we, I mean me, I was listening to the boys over on the Fightful podcast, and Alex Pulowski said something that rang very true to me, and I really do believe this. I think that, and Chris Jeter pointed it out in the chat right here, saying that, the opening promo by Miz was better than his entire 2013 face run. I think we needed dastardly, despicable Miz all this time for us to learn to love the Miz, and we're ready to embrace him as a babyface now. I think we needed his extended run as a dick to now be like, no, dude, we're on your side. We get it. And we've been through all these wars with you. We're on the same page now. All right. I'm ready to give Miz a chance here, because I think that year after year, after all his tenure in WWE, when everyone, every year, every time was ready to count this guy out, he's been able to turn it around, and he is at the very top of his game right now. He's been coasting on it. He's been coasting on it for a while. So now, next we have our first match of the evening here. Sasha and Bayley, the Boss and Hug connection versus the Iconics, who come out with a promo. Wasn't their best Iconics promo, but they did do some topical references. Where were they tonight, chat? I forget what city. Look, this is what I want you to. They made a joke tonight, and Chad, I want you to help me out here. They made a joke tonight about the Ivy League scandal. The ring of influence. That was broken up. They made a reference to that. Now I don't remember in what city they were in. Does that city have an Ivy League university? If anyone can point that out to me, because otherwise I don't understand why they mentioned it. It just came across as, oh, let's be current, let's talk about current affairs, and it just felt desperate because I don't understand. I don't understand what the reference was all about otherwise. So basically, they cut their promo, and they go, and the match starts. I'm going to tell you guys something, and it breaks my heart, but this match was rough. This match was rough. And I'm not trying to be funny. I sound like a dog here, but this wasn't good. And I don't want to say it's bad. I want to love Sasha and Bayley in a tag team. I want to love the Iconics, and I want them, all four of these women, working together. I want it to be great. But this was messy. It was slow. There was a horrible, messy spot where Boston Hug launched Peyton into the ropes. They whip her, and then she sort of like waddles back really slow and passes, like sort of like scoots through between Sasha and Bayley, and then she comes back, and then Sasha and Bayley do some kind of double team. Bayley picks Sasha. Like, it was a mess. And there were some spots as well, distraction spots that just seemed off. Everything seemed off here. And man, is Peyton Royce okay? Seems to me, I don't know if it's just because that they haven't been really wrestling all that much since they came up from NXT, but Peyton was much better than this. I don't know. I mean, I just want to call it as I see it, right? You know, if I do it for the dudes, I do it for the ladies as well. But it's because what breaks my heart is that it's 4 women that I really, really like. You know, Sasha had a moment, you know, where she got some explosive offense in. She got double knees in the corner and got top rope Meteora, or second rope Meteora, I should say. But anyway, it ends with the Iconics doing some double team shenanigans to get the pin on Sasha. So they have a win over the tag champions. So, you know, that technically means that they're up for a title shot as well. So I think that our triple threat tag team match at WrestleMania is turning into a 4-way, folks. I really do. Indianapolis. Thank you. Thank you, chat. Indianapolis is where they were tonight, and there's no Ivy League university there, which thank you, Robert Larry, by the way. I don't understand the reference then. I don't know why they did that. I really don't. Then Robert moves on and says that the women's tag team match was pointless. It wasn't pointless because the point was to bring the Iconics into the WrestleMania match, which I'm sure that's what's going to happen. You know, they scored a non-title victory on the champs that normally puts you in line for a title. So it's not pointless. It was just rough. Mr. Fred says the Iconics are a comedy act. They are terrible wrestlers. That's the thing. They're not terrible wrestlers. Peyton Royce is not a terrible wrestler. If you go back, just go back a couple of years ago and see what she was able to pull out in NXT. She can hold her own. It's really, really strange. And I mean, you know, and someone on Twitter tonight, you know, when I was talking about it, said, "Oh, yeah, you know, Sasha and Bayley, you know, they've been botching a lot." And this match tonight was a collective affair. Like everyone contributed to its roughness. But you know, I mean, these things happen. Then you dust yourself off and you try again, right? No one was hurt. No one died. We're okay. I just want them to do really, really well. Backstage, we have Rey Mysterio, who's with Kyla Braxton, and he's with Dominic. Now, Dominic, oh boy, seeing Dominic all grown up like that doesn't make me feel any younger. To me, he's still a baby. But no, not anymore. And not only is he not a baby anymore, Jesus, he's so much taller than his dad. And then they have Kayla Braxton, who is teeny tiny because she's smaller than Mysterio. You put all 3 of those people together, and Dominic looks like Braun Strowman's kid, not Rey Mysterio's. He's huge. Or at least he was huge in the context. That was funny. You want to bet something? Let's have a little friendly bet. Let's have a little friendly bet here. I see, Mr. Fretzel, I'm your puppy. Like I'm not still convinced that Eddie's not his dad. I'm still, especially when you see how tall he is. Not that Eddie was a particularly tall guy, but he was taller than Ray. Anyway, let's not dig up the past, but let's have a friendly bet. Is it a coincidence? is it a coincidence that Samoa Joe seems to be primed for a feud with Rey Mysterio going into WrestleMania? Is it a coincidence that Samoa Joe, who spent the better part of his feud with AJ Styles last year stalking his wife, stalking AJ's family, is it a coincidence? Is Joe going to start pulling some shenanigans on Dominic here? I don't think this is a coincidence. I think there's something planned here. I really do. We'll see. Reserve ultimate judgment. But I mean, this is completely up Joe's alley right here. Say CM Phil agrees. CM Phil, quality member of chat here. Quality, top-notch member. And that leads us into the Kevin Owens show with new graphics. Kevin Owens comes out. He's wearing a tie, a nice bright red tie with the shirt. Oh. And he comes out to his environment, to his stage setting, has a seat, and invites his two guests out, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. And they're sitting on opposite sides of the table. Kevin Owens talks about how friendships can sometimes go wrong, saying nobody can get under your skin like your former best friend. Am I right? Am I right? You should know. So he starts reading off notes. He's prepared. Our boy Kevin, you know, his path to WrestleMania may not be very clear, but you can rest assured that he's prepared for whatever he's being tossed into. So basically, you know, he reads off some quotes sort of to stoke the fires. He's, you know, he knows what he's doing here. And he says, you guys, there's a lot of talk, you've been exchanging words, but nobody wants to see you people. Not you people. You two. Nobody wants to see you two. Nobody wants to see you two talk. Right? I want to see you fight. What do I say? Fight Owens, fight Becky, fight Charlotte, fight. He says, here, there's your microphones, Charlotte. Why don't you, do you have something to say? Charlotte says, I would beat, why don't you, if you guys were to fight now, Charlotte, what would you do? And Charlotte says, I would beat the holy hell out of Becky. And Kevin says, Becky, wait a second. And he steps out of the ring. He says, Becky, I'll let you respond. And she just goes right for Charlotte. And we have a brawl. This is a fine brawl. It was a good brawl. They even started slapping officials around, which I'm entirely for. I'm okay with that. I don't think that you're a completely seasoned WWE official until you've been palm striked or lariated. I don't think so. You know what? This is what this feud needed at this point. I don't know what y'all in chat believe. Here we go. We're talking about me being a heel again because I said you people. I'm about to rip a you people promo on y'all in chat if you don't simmer down. Jeez. So basically here, what I'm trying to get at is that this feud here, the ladies' feud, the women's feud, needed this. Not more talk, not more mic time, not more innuendos about wrestling being fake. We needed action. We needed stuff to happen. We needed Becky to be Becky again. Instead of having her victories handed to her, having her suspension lifted by the McMahons, having WWE dropping the charges, her going to WrestleMania after being disqualified, just being punched in the face. This is what we want. We want to back Becky because because Becky is out to get what she wants, and we believe in her, and we want this to happen. You know, important part. I think it's important to parcel out here. You know, Becky Lynch is not losing heat. She's look at the reaction she got the minute Kevin Owens said Becky Lynch. Everyone stood up. People are still hot for Becky. It's this angle. Bleh. It's just been all over the place. And they've been trying to accommodate Ms. Rousey in the meantime. And it kind of felt, you know what? It felt nice on Monday having Ronda doing her thing on Raw. No Becky, no Charlotte. And then coming over to SmackDown and then having Becky and Charlotte here again. But it's, you know, it's still very confusing to a certain extent. And this, I think this is the problem of having added Charlotte into the mix. What's confusing here is that Becky, for months now, she wanted to fight Ronda. So technically, like, that's your money fight. That's your money feud there. Charlotte was added in, and it's sort of muddying everything. You know. But, you know, we still have a couple of weeks left, and it's, like I said, I think it was last night, you know, the road to this feud has been messy. It's lost some of its luster, but we're going to get a great match nonetheless. We're going to have a great match nonetheless. And just to note, I'm just going to throw this out here. This was the last we were going to see of the women on SmackDown tonight. We're what? After tonight, we have 2 weeks left until WrestleMania. Asuka doesn't have a match yet. Just putting that out there. How you doing, Darcy Barker? I turned heel when I started doing bold predictions. Now, come on. Not a heel. Robert Larry says, let me guess, both Becky and Charlotte will get fined by the WWE for hitting refs. This storyline is getting to become borderline ridiculous. Yeah, we're already there, Robert, if you ask me. Jay King says, Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda should not be laying hands on each other until WrestleMania. Yeah, yes and no. You know, like, I dug it when Stone Cold would run in, like, from just about anywhere and beat the shit out of people without them knowing it. Like, it depends. I'm 50-50 on that. I'm okay with them. I'm okay with this. But they should actually have them wrestle just a bit. Jamie says, Becky has barely spoken in 2 months. Promos is what got her over. She needs to talk. Then whoop a woman's ass. I agree. And JPQ just popped back into the chat to do his job as a moderator. What a B+ moderator JBQ is. AJ Styles is backstage. He says Randy Orton has a lot of advantages. 3rd generation. He's got size. He's got strength. He's got agility. And he talks about house building. He and Randy. And I'm thinking maybe they should start their own show on HGTV. You know? Then AJ Styles says he's going to go to WrestleMania to tear the house down. And maybe they'll flip it and sell it for a profit. Then we have Daniel Bryan. He hits the ring. He starts talking about how it's an injustice. How it's an injustice that Kofi Kingston is in this position to try and fight him at WrestleMania, because Kofi does not deserve the opportunity. Bryan knows what it means to be kept down by the authority, but Kofi was handpicked to replace Mustafa Ali, and I like that. It is an opportunity he never earned. Okay. See, I like Daniel Bryan because I like it when he starts making sense like this. Well, you know, I mean, he's earned it. I'm not saying that Kofi Kingston, over the span of his career, has not deserved a world title shot. Don't get me wrong. But, like, I know what he's trying to get at. He said, and he adds this, and this is actually an excellent point. He says, Kofi fought valiantly in the first gauntlet match and in the Elimination Chamber and came up short both times. Both times he lost and he earned nothing for it. And here comes the quote. Here comes the quote. John, are you listening? Here comes the quote. He says I guess it's a good thing being a B+ player. And this is such a callback to what people used to say about Daniel Bryan. This is exactly what people used to say about Daniel Bryan back then. Daniel Bryan is a B+ player. And I like it. I like this kind of stuff. And this is the story they should be telling. This is really the story they should be telling. The irony of Daniel Bryan being champion, being backed by management, putting obstacles in another guy's way to try and keep him from winning the title. You know, being the underdog. Daniel Bryan is the penultimate underdog in WWE's history. And he managed to rise to the top. And yet here he is at the top doing pretty much what, or at least not being supportive, not doing pretty much the same thing, but not being supportive of Kofi Kingston's plight here. And this is the real story they should be telling. Not something about, a gauntlet match and overcome all these obstacles. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to wait. I want to wait till we've absorbed, till we've talked through tonight's gauntlet match before getting into everything here about all of that. So that's good. Hey, by the way, folks who are watching live right now, you know, I don't do this often. I don't think I've ever done this. But right now, I have 25 concurrent users watching right now. I have 25 people who are watching right now. That's fantastic. But I've topped the record, right? This is my previous record was 25. I've hit my current record. I'm at 25. If anyone would like to go out there and just say, hey, do you want to come and just jump into Warren's stream and let's see if we can boost that. That'd be good for my ego. You say, Warren, you've got a healthy ego. Why do we need to help it? Look, don't ask too many questions. You know, it's not because you're healthy that you shouldn't take vitamins in the morning, all right? I mean, if you guys want to do that, throw out the link. Call your cousin who owes you for that weekend that you went to move his sofa from upstairs down to the family room. He owes you for that. Call him and say, jump in. Your mother, who hasn't given you love since you were 13, once you pierced your nose and started listening to Imagine Dragons. Well, she owes you one for not giving you the love that you required. Tell her to get on the street. Let's see. Let's just see. Let's see if we can do it. All right. Right now at 25. Let's see what happens. All right. So let's talk about the gauntlet match. Right. And people will arrive and they'll be like, hey, we're talking wrestling here. We're going to start with the gauntlet match. Kofi Kingston started off against Sheamus. Of course, the Bar came out together because they're a tag team. They're bros, they're buds, they're pals, chums, friends. Sheamus starts off. There's some back and forth with Kofi, who's avoiding a lot of Sheamus's offense, and he's looking good. He's smiling. He's loose, and we get some "You look stupid" chants from the audience as well. Finally, Sheamus gets him down with a big headlock, but Kofi fights out of it. He uses a hammerlock on Sheamus to keep him down. Sheamus, though, arm drags Kofi down, but Kofi follows through with an arm drag of his own, which was nice and smooth. Covers Sheamus, but only gets 2. Sheamus is tossed to the outside with a back dive. You know, one of these trust dives that he does that's just crazy. It's like he just, you know, it's scary. I'm sure it's scary enough, like doing a dive over the top rope or a tope con hilo or something like that. But Kofi just like turns his back and is like, "Catch me, please," you know, kind of thing. It's his back dive over, and that gets the crowd up on its feet. That was a good early spot. Kofi gets back in, but Sheamus was waiting for him, and he pummels him with forearms to the chest, to the back. He hits a backdrop on Kofi, who lands on his feet and starts kicking Sheamus, but Sheamus distracts the ref in order for Cesaro to European uppercut your boy Kingston. It's followed by a couple of unsuccessful pin attempts by Sheamus, and we come back from commercial, and Kofi is palming Sheamus across the chest, hits a drop kick, and he takes Sheamus down with a clothesline, does the double leg drop. Trouble in Paradise is blocked by Sheamus, who transitions right into a cloverleaf, or at least tries to, because Kofi reverses it with a springboard crossbody off the top rope. Covers Sheamus, only gets 2. A little later on, Sheamus hits a backbreaker, covers Kofi, again only for 2. Sheamus has finally locks the cloverleaf in, though. However, Kofi crunches up, which I thought was really cool, and rolls Sheamus up for 2. A big knee by Sheamus ends that momentum, and he covers Kofi again for 2. Kofi then blocks a brogue kick and hits the Trouble in Paradise for the very first win of the night. So good job on your boy Kofington. But then Cesaro runs in really quickly, trying to get a quick win on Kofi. Lightning fast pin attempts are unsuccessful, so he goes into a leg submission, but Kofi pushes out of it. Cesaro after commercial is back with Kofi goes after Cesaro with a springboard body press, but he's caught by Cesaro, who catches him and reverses it into a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. That was nice. He covers Kingston, but only gets 2. Cesaro then hits an over-the-knee backbreaker and bends him backward over his knee, so wearing Kingston down some more. He does the big swing, gets a cloverleaf on as well. Kofi tries to fight out of it, but Cesaro lifts him up into a package hatch suplex. Colt Cabana says hi. Kofi, though, fights back and hits the SOS for the 3 count. That was fantastic stuff from Kofi and Cesaro. So Kofi, you know, he's feeling good, feeling competitive, but Rowan comes out next. And here's where it starts getting complicated. As Rowan comes out and he starts crushing Kofi. He tosses him to the floor, runs him down with a lariat, throws him into the barricade, and uses a chair on Kofi, which gets him disqualified. And I'm like, aha. See, this is why Daniel Bryan is the planet's champion. This is why, Daniel Bryan is an intellectual. And so is Eric Rowan. Eric Rowan doesn't want to go to WrestleMania. His position in this match here had nothing to do with him fighting Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. This was all about softening Kofi up so that he wouldn't make it to the end of the gauntlet. And that's exactly what he does. Rowan just smashes him up. despite the fact that he used a bear hug. Despite the fact that he used a bear hug, he tosses Kofi into the timekeeper's area and uses the global palming on Kofi through the announce desk. The global palming, for those of you who haven't been following the Mr. Warren Hayes show over the past few weeks, they call it officially the Iron Claw, Rowan's finisher, which is lame name. What is this 1986 called? It wants your finisher name back. I'm sorry for that. I shouldn't have. That's a 1990s call. They want their tired or old jokes back. I'm sorry. But nonetheless, a couple of weeks ago we were shooting the shit on Twitter, and someone came up with this name, and I feel bad. I can't remember who called it out on Twitter, but it is the best name. I'm campaigning for it. To me, it's not the Iron Claw. It will be Global Palming, because that is really fantastic. So basically, Rowan has destroyed Kofi, and the next adversary is Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe. I like Samoa Joe. I really do. Joe is all over Kofi Kingston at this point in the crowd. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the the Gauntlet match. And I apologize, I forgot. I don't want to backtrack too much, but I forgot about this. The New Day and the Usos are backstage watching a television at an angle. They're watching Kofi, right? It's like a watch party they're having going. And as the evening progresses, as the Gauntlet match progresses, more and more of the baby faces in the locker room gather around the New Day and the Usos until we have a rather large assembly of good guys cheering Kofi on. You even saw Nikki Cross there, which we hadn't seen on TV for a while. Just putting that out there. Asuka. Asuka wasn't there either. Gallows and Anderson weren't there either. Have you heard, by the way? I should have talked about this at the Gallows and Anderson. There's a fair chance that they're gone from WWE, or that they're leaving. They're on their way out. Fair chance that that's going to happen. I say good for them. They should go. They should instantly go back to New Japan. I would love to see Machine Gun and Doc back in New Japan. Anyway, so let's get back to the Gauntlet match. We have Joe going crazy. He's working over Kofi. Kofi suddenly starts to fire back with some strikes. He tries to whip Samoa Joe into the corner. Joe reverses it. He follows right in with his big back elbow with the enziguri, covers Kofi for 2.9. And Joe turns Kofi inside out with the hugest of huge lariats. Covers Kofi again for 2.9. Kofi counters out of a Kakina clutch, but eats a Uranagi. And Joe covers Kofi again for 2.9. Joe tries to remain in control, but Kofi fights back. And he's tired. He's exhausted. He's trying his best. Joe goes and sets him up on the ropes. And he sets him up for a muscle buster. A muscle buster on WWE television. Joe, you know what happens to people who try to pull out banned moves on WWE television? Samoa Joe, they get rolled up for the win. That's what happens. Or for the loss, I should say. In your case, Samoan Joseph. That's what you get for pulling out a banned move like the Muscle Buster. Kofi rolled him up, squirmed out of the Muscle Buster and rolled him up for the win. Pah! Take that, Samoa Joe. You're not gonna end any careers tonight. Next thing you're gonna put out the Steiner line. Is that what you're gonna do? Shit. We're not having none of this nonsense. But then again, when I saw the Muscle Buster, I was like he's done this tease before, and we know it's a banned move in WWE. But recently we've seen Canadian Destroyers, which until recently were a banned move as well. So I'm like, are they pulling this one out? But then again, if he did use the Muscle Buster on Kofi would have. That was the end there. If you're going to pull out that, I mean, Kofi would have, that was done right there. So Kofi wins, but Joe is not pleased. He's not happy. And he gets the Coquina clutch in on Kofi. And he locks it in using the ropes. And since he's using the ropes, folks, that means it's much more severe. It's a much more severe hold. And he just releases the hold eventually. Kofi is dead, basically. Kofi's dead. Dead. And out comes Randy Orton to finish this one off. And, you have to appreciate here. You really do have to appreciate the fact that they decided to end with Randy Orton. The controversy, right? The stupid. You guys know what I'm talking about? A few years ago, what? Maybe was it 2010? He had a match on Raw with, I think it was with Ted DiBiase. Can't quite remember the details of the match, but what I do remember is that Kofi Kingston was not in the correct spot for the finish. He botched the finish, and Orton was mad as hell. And he was so mad that he went backstage, he being Orton, and just talked so much crap against Kofi Kingston. And that de-pushed Kingston, who was being pushed. Excuse me. I shouldn't be drinking root beer as I do this then, I guess. But yeah, that's basically it, right? Orton and Kofi had legit heat. Orton is considered to be responsible for Kofi's deep push. Kind of like Randy Orton is responsible for having Mr. Kennedy fired. Orton was a bit of a son of a bitch. Being honest, it's a bit of a son of a bitch. So basically, yes, it's root beer. Kristen, she's challenging me in the chat. It's root beer. Look, this is not a paid advertisement. I'm trying. See, A&W root beer, and you see it's a 2-liter bottle, and it's almost done. It's not beer. It's root beer. I don't drink alcohol when I do streams. I keep telling you people. So basically, we're so basically Orton comes to the there's something very poetic about this being his being Kofi's final match. So I really liked it. Could someone kick Joe Anthony from the chat? He thinks root beer is disgusting. I have no use for that kind of slander in my chat. Mods, I'll let you handle this. Okay, so I'm being derailed. Apologies. But Randy Orton comes out, and we cut to commercial. When we come back, though, Orton is on the outside of the ring, beating Kofi up. They eventually get back into the ring, and Orton lays in with some European uppercuts, kicks him in the knee, gets him in a chin lock, and then pulls really hard on it. And you guys know, if you watch this a bit, this being my show, you know that I don't really particularly care about chin locks really early on in a match. It kind of comes across as a little lazy, but using them here, it was smart for Orton to do, instead of just coming in and using. I'm talking in purely psychology wise. It's smarter for Orton to use these types of moves instead of expending energy trying to hit power moves or running moves or so on and so forth, when your opponent is already super exhausted. Like, he's been in the ring for like 40 minutes at this point. Why would Randy Orton have gone all out to try and take him down? It's like, no, I'm gonna squeeze whatever air you have left. You're just about dead anyway. Smart. The Viper. The apex predator. Kofi tries to fight back, and he goes for a drop kick, but Orton sort of just like swats it away, and there was nothing on that drop kick. Kofi avoids the RKO and then hits a drop kick. Tries to crawl to Randy, who rolls outside of the ring because Kofi can't get to Orton fast enough. When we come back from commercial, we're up on the ropes. Shenanigans ensue. It ends with Kofi hitting a top rope crossbody, which is reversed into a pin by Orton, who only gets 2. Orton hits the draping DDT on Kofi, but Kofi avoids an RKO and rolls him up out of nowhere for the win. So, roll up after roll up after roll up. Surprise wins. Kofi wins the gauntlet match. He's going to WrestleMania to face Daniel Bryan, or is he? Because Vince McMahon comes out, congratulates Kofi, and you're going to WrestleMania, pal, as long as you can defeat one last opponent. And then he gets the New Day expelled from ringside, and it is Daniel Bryan who comes out. Now this, folks, is generally what we refer to as overbooking. This is overbooking. This is textbook overbooking. It's taking a situation, a finish that is clear, done, that provides an ending, but then adding an extra ending or resolution anyway on top of it that was not required. That muddies the waters. That provides confusion and dissatisfaction from your live audience. This is what overbooking is right here. McMahon coming out and saying, oh, by the way, there's one more thing you have to do. And it's not even good overbooking, it's super cheap. It's bad. Well, Daniel Bryan does hit the ring. He gets some kicks in, but Kofi battles out himself with kicks. He eats a knee from Daniel Bryan, who sets him up then in the Tree of Woe, follows in with more kicks. Bryan and Kofi do a belly-to-back superplex on Kofi. Kofi, at this point, doesn't need to take that bump. He doesn't need to, but he takes it anyway because he's a goddamn pro. Kofi kicks out, though, of the pin attempt, and Bryan goes right into the label lock, but Kofi reaches the bottom rope to break it up. The yes kicks follow. The final kick is dodged, and Kofi reverses it into the SOS, but Jesus, he plants himself. He crowns himself as he's doing the SOS. He lands on his head. That guy's spent, man. He can't do it anymore. He covers Bryan, but only gets 2. Corner drop kicks from Bryan follow. And this all comes to an end when Bryan is in the corner and he's he's pointing up, hearkening back to the yes chants, but everyone is chanting no because he's a babyface, because he's not a babyface, I should say. And what a great nod, to Daniel Bryan, with the entire audience going yes, yes behind him as he hits a running knee to Kofi's head for the win. I mean, it was a great nod. I like the final sequence, but it was overbooked. It's overbooked. So chat, this is where the Warren board comes in right now. All right? Are we ready for this? Chat, this is what's up. Next week, obviously. Okay. First, I'm going to talk a bit because I'm going to give you an assignment right now. We're going to do something together. It's audience participation time. You guys are going to tell me what Kofi Kingston is going to have to do next week. I'm going to take three suggestions. All right? You guys tell me, because obviously next week Kofi's going to have to do something to earn his spot at WrestleMania, right? So you guys tell me right now what are the three things that Kofi Kingston... give me three ideas. Keep them short, keep them concise. Todd, I'm not asking for booking. Just tell me, what is he going to do? Now, there's a bit of a delay between the moment that I'm speaking and that chat appears, so that'll give me some time here. So in the meantime, I'll regale you with what I don't like about this situation. I don't like this situation because even last week when it was announced that he had to do a gauntlet match again, what made the gauntlet match special the first time around, and this whole Kofi Mania thing, the thing that makes it special is because no one was expecting it. No one was expecting Kofi to go the distance. No one in management expected the audience to be 110% behind Kofi Kingston. No one expected him to even go that far in the Elimination Chamber, and for this feud to move on like this, right? I mean, that's what made it special, is that it was a surprise. Now, we're clearly in the underdog has to overcome all the obstacles to win the prize. Where at this point, it doesn't have to be that anymore, because for two reasons. First of all, in regards to the gauntlet match tonight, Kofi's already won the gauntlet, already won a gauntlet match. We know, because we're smart wrestling fans, we see how they're telegraphing things. We know that Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston are going to fight at WrestleMania. Just announce the damn match and let us get excited about it, and let them build in another way. So doing the gauntlet match tonight was just telegraphing it. We knew he was going to win. That's one thing. The second thing is that we buy into Kofi Kingston being a babyface, just naturally, and not a babyface. Well, a babyface, but as an underdog, because that's what he's been for most of his career. We buy into it. We understand he's the underdog in this situation. We don't need to have it so ham-fisted to make us understand that he's overcome all the obstacles to make it to this point. His 11-year career was an obstacle. This is the culmination. This is what the payoff is. The story tells itself. You don't have to add these layers and layers of impossible odds to make us care for him more. He already has our sympathy. It doesn't have to go further. So we knew he'd win the gauntlet match, but we didn't need Daniel Bryan coming out to fight at the end. Oh, it's a swerve. It's not a swerve. This is just frustrating at this point. Again, this is a situation where we're going to get to WrestleMania. We're going to have a great match. Bryan and Kingston is going to be fantastic. But this is what we have to deal with in the meantime. And look at how, when they decided to overbook the feud between Ronda and Becky, add Charlotte in, all these layers, the suspension, the injury, the arrest, Ronda going nuts on social media. The feud just loses its impact. The story is not as compelling. I said this on Twitter and I'll say it again. The most compelling story, I hope you guys, by the way, in chat, you're coming up with some ideas. as to what Kofi can do next week. The most compelling story they could be telling and just really focusing on, and they touched on it tonight, is Daniel Bryan being in a reverse situation. He being the top-notch authority position guy. The guy who's calling the shots, who's in cahoots with the authority. The irony of that, of him trying to keep Kofi Kingston down, is the story. That's the story that we should be telling. Not Vince McMahon making life difficult for Kofi Kingston because it doesn't make sense. I don't know why he'd do that. He's the president of the company. He's the CEO. He's got people chanting for Kofi Kingston. He should be coming out and saying, let's make the match, pal. Not, let's just make sure he doesn't make it to WrestleMania because I don't like making money. It just doesn't work. The story they should be telling from this point on, now that he won the gauntlet, is Daniel Bryan being a dick. That's what they should be saying. All right, so what have we got here as far as ideas go? I'm gonna scroll up a bit here. You got Maven Glean. How you doing? Welcome to the chat. All right, so Joe Anthony has an idea here. He says, put his career on the line. Put a career on the line or go to WrestleMania. Okay, so let's call it a career on the line. That sounds like a Vince thing. So for those of you who are listening on podcast, I'm writing these suggestions up on the Warren board here. Kristen Ashley says, wash Vince's feet. That doesn't sound very, very Vince-like. Vince would probably have someone clean something a little more private. Jamie Tannick says, Vince is like the aliens in Independence Day. He keeps running angles and moving on to the next one. Becky, Kofi, probably Roman next. Let's see here. JPQ says, hair versus hair match with Samoa Joe. Well, does it have to be? I'll just put hair versus hair. Hair versus hair. Okay. What else have we got? J King. J King, is that an idea? He's going to explain why the Earth is flat? No, we've already got AJ Styles to explain that to us. Chris Jeter says Vince will probably make him wrestle Big E and Xavier because Vince hates tag teams. Oh. You know what? Hey. That is such a good idea, Chris. And if they do that, I will honestly forgive all the overbooking tonight because that would be so compelling. Mysterious one. Kofi Kingston got screwed, by the way. Hello, Mysterious one. Thank you for being here. The guys who Maven says the guys who mentioned Kofi tonight are going to say we aren't wrestling until Kofi gets his match. Oh, okay. So the baby faces on strike kind of thing. Yeah, that's actually not bad. That's a good idea too. The idea that the locker room really is really 100% supporting. 100% in support of Kofi Kingston. Shane Haas says, join the Kiss My Haas Club. Kristen Ashley's being all clickbaity on us, saying, Kofi lost the gauntlet match. What Vince does next will inspire you. Is that what it is? Let's see here. Why are you telling me? Don't tell me to wrap up my rants. No one tells me when to wrap up my rants, people. You people. So yeah, I hope I'm not missing any. I hope I'm not missing. Yeah, I'm not missing anything else. All right, good. So these are the suggestions here that you guys came up with, and I'm going to take a picture of the Warren board, and I'm going to put this on my Twitter. And when we reconvene next Tuesday, we were going to discuss this. I'm going to pull this back up, and we're going to see just how close to reality, to reality you guys are, because I think there's something. You know what? There's a couple of really good ideas here. Actually, they're all pretty good ideas. Career on the line. Wash Vince's feet. And he'd get him to wash something for sure. For sure. So SmackDown tonight, if I were to wrap it up, I will never crap on a wrestling program that actually delivers lots of wrestling. I mean, this was all about the wrestling tonight. We had action. We had nonstop action for about an hour, right? So there's no way I'm going to flip a table and say, "Oh, tonight sucked." And everything advanced storylines tonight. Everything had a purpose, even if it's not really clear tonight, especially in the case of the Sasha and Bayley and the Iconics match. Especially since it's not necessarily clear or official right now where they're going with it. You can feel that they're setting stuff up. Everything had a purpose. Everything advanced storylines heading into WrestleMania, and this is what they need to be doing. All they need to add into this mix to make Warren really, really happy is give Asuka something to do. That's all we have to do. Oh, J.S. Brown just popped in and he said, contract on a pole match. I'm adding that. Contract on a pole match. So, folks, I'm going to take a picture of this. Once we are done, it's going to pop up on Twitter, which you can follow me at Mr. Warren Hayes, so we can have a record of it and we can discuss this further next week. So there we have it. That is our recap for WWE SmackDown live this week, and yeah, so that'll wrap up my own SmackDown live recap tonight. I want to thank everyone who joined tonight. That was another lively session with a lot of great stuff happening. We've got a board to talk about. We've got next week. We're looking forward to more stuff. Remember, tomorrow, 205 Live NXT UK recap over on FightfulSelect.com. Make sure you're there. Check out the Smart to Death YouTube channel. Subscribe to those guys. YouTube.com/Smart to Death to be sure that you don't miss out on our New Japan Cup brackets show. There's another one coming up over the weekend, I guess. So there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I had a great time. I hope you did too. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.